Good morning, good morning, good morning from Brisbane, Australia, where it is finally cooler. Today, I am going to do a YouTube live answering a question from the community. Now, I want to just grab the link here and share it with somebody to make sure that you can hear me. Now, if you get on live before my buddy, then please type in the chat if you can hear me and see me, and then I can just dive into the question. So let's see how we go. What I am going to be talking about today is a question from if you're watching on the replay, I'm going to answer a question about conditioning as a projector. Thanks so much, Brad. Thank you. So good to go. You can see me and hear me, which is fabulous. So if we haven't met before, I'm Carolyn Southwell. I'm a 2-4 emotional projector. I've been playing with human design for more than a decade at this point. And lots of experimenting and contemplating and work around what it means to be a happy, healthy, well-functioning projector. So the question that came in, and this is the best way I can answer questions outside of coaching calls, is when people submit a question. Now, you can do it live in the chat here if you like, or you can do it in a comment, or if you're on my email list, you can reply to emails and ask me questions that I can then answer in this format. If they are generalized enough, if you've got very specific questions about your chart, of course, we need to do that inside a coaching session. But if you've got a sort of more general question, like the one I'm about to answer, then I can absolutely do it on a YouTube live, because then that will benefit more people. So thanks for bearing with me as I get really good at doing YouTube lives, because I've done lots of videos on this channel prior to this. And if you're new to the channel, then you can definitely have a click around and see if what I'm talking about with projectors isn't so relevant to you. There is a whole playlist for the other human design types. So if you just look at the channel itself, you'll be able to see content there. But let's look at today's question. So this person has said, Ra said, projectors are designed to be conditioned the most deeply of all the types. Doesn't that make the most useful tool in our kit the power to drop in with presence into the now with neutrality, so we can discover our conditioning? It explains why the gene keys focus on contemplation, which requires presence. Okay, so because I have an undefined throat, and if you know what that means, you'll know what it means. It means I can meander around the place. So I've written myself some notes to help me stay on track to make this video as helpful and useful for you as possible. Now, again, this video is going to be helpful if you are a projector yourself navigating this process, or you have a projector loved one, so somebody really close to you, or projector clients that you're trying to better understand if you yourself teach human design as part of your business. So the first thing I want to say is, yes, it is true that we are more heavily conditioned than the other types. And as we go along, I will explain why that is. But the short answer is, yes, it is true. We are. Now, the other thing I want to say is, yes, dropping into the now is essential. I have made so much progress in being able to actually live out a higher expression of my design by doing this process that we talk about of deconditioning. And to clear the conditioning, especially there's two parts. There's the ongoing conditioning that happens, and when we're sort of plugged into people. But there's also the conditioning that we received through our lifetime up to this point in time, especially in early childhood. So a deconditioning tool allows you to find and release the stuff that is not a match for your human design and is not helping you, is hindering or harming or hurting you in some way. And part of any deconditioning process, it doesn't matter whether you do it through tapping the way I do it or any of the other number of ideally safe and effective, gentle tools that are available now, or the technologies, the ways that we can do that. What is essential is that all of them will require you on some degree, in some way, to be in the now, to be present with what is. And this person has said, dropping into the now with neutrality. Now, if we could all drop into the now with neutrality, The world would be functioning way better. The problem isn't, like, most people can't do that. And when you find a person who can spend a lot of time in the now, in neutrality, you found a master, right? They're extremely peaceful to spend time with, and it's really beautiful, and it'll have a really profound impact on you. For the rest of us mere mortals, what it looks like is dropping into the now and being with whatever you find. And often it's so uncomfortable that that's exactly why we distract, dissociate, get busy up in our mind, learning all the things, finding our ways out of the now, because the now is so damn uncomfortable. So the real nugget that I think is just not talked about in human design anywhere near enough is like finding a deconditioning tool, a process, a method that you like, that will allow you to deal with what you find when you drop into the now. It is a process. I am better at it now than I was a year ago and 5 years ago and 10 years ago. And I know that if you're following my work in 5 years from now, I'll be even better at dropping into the now and finding neutrality. But the real work is actually being able to drop in and have the skill and the capacity to work with whatever you find in there. And when you get really present in the now, you're going to find all sorts of things. You're going to find anxiety and shame and anger. And sometimes you might find joy, and that might not be safe either, because the other people around you are all stuck in worry and shame and anger, and they can't handle your joy, right? So if I come back to my notes, the key point here I want to really bring home is, like, if you can be in the now with neutrality, that's wonderful. And if you can't, you're not broken. You just need to, like, acquire a skill to gently be with what you find in titrated, like, tiny little drops, a tiny little bit of discomfort at a time, and then you can pop back out again and do something else that feels less comfortable, that feels more comfortable and less uncomfortable. So if we come back to this idea of conditioning as a projector, there are two aspects. There is the aspect of the ongoing conditioning that happens. So let's talk about that. Your body, our body, all of us, our body sits inside an energy field. In human design, we tend to call it the aura. In science, they call it the biofield. Lots of us call it the energy field. It's the same freaking thing. It is this big bubble of energy that extends in, some people say, 5 to 6 feet, so a couple of meters out in every direction around us, up, down, through walls, all the things, right? Now, the aura for each of the human design types works differently. The aura for us as projectors behaves in a very penetrative way. When I am plugged into another person, it doesn't matter if it's my partner, another family member, a friend, a client. When I have the intention to connect, what my aura does as a projector is it penetrates deeply into that other person and, like, plugs in. That is what makes us as projectors potentially incredible guides, because we can see, sense, feel, and know all of this stuff about the other person. And as long as we have their permission, they have somehow invited us, then we can tell them all sorts of things that will be very useful for them to live a happier, healthier, better functioning life. But the thing about plugging into one person at a time for you as the projector doing that is you are basically munching on their energy. So I want you to think about, how good do you think it is for your well-being if every day you're munching on junk food? You're munching on fast food, you're munching on things that are full of, like, nasty fats and, like, not clean protein and sugars and preservatives. You already know, I'm sure, if you're following me here on this channel and you're in the human design space, you already know that if you put that kind of junk into your body, then it is harmful for your body. The same is true with the people that you plug into. if you as a projector are plugging into people who are endlessly worried and don't want to do anything about it, endlessly depressed and don't want to do anything about it. Now, this is not to shame anyone who has really a heavy emotional burden, because some of us have been through really traumatic things, and that is not our fault. But there is a requirement, and thank you there in the comments, I see you. There is a requirement for each of us to do our own freaking work, right? So it is really important for your well-being, knowing that every time as a projector you plug into someone else, they are conditioning you. They are affecting your well-being. So look at the people that you're interacting with, that you're plugged into. Does it feel like really nourishing food? Do you come away from those interactions feeling really healthy and full of life and vitality? Or do you come away feeling like you just ate 4 Big Macs? Now, sometimes, let's just go on a little bit of a tangent here, because I feel like this particular topic is going to be helpful for a lot of people. So we'll hang out for a little while today. You may not always have full control over who you are spending time with. If you work a day job and you don't have full control over your coworkers, and you mostly like your job and you mostly want to keep it, but you don't have full control over who you spend time with, you might have to work out how to create some boundaries that you don't necessarily tell everyone else about. In a eating your energy is like eating Big Macs. Don't tell people that. That's just for us to understand, right? But when you're interacting with other people, just think about for yourself, is this person good for me? And if they are, then like munch on their energy for as long as feels good. And if they don't, then how can you create some boundaries within the limitations you have of needing to stay in contact somehow with these people? You can do the same with family. You might have family you love, but maybe they're not good for you to like be eating their energy every day. So maybe you need to create some kind of limits around how often you plug into them, knowing, if we come back to this idea of conditioning, knowing that every time you plug into that person or those people, they are conditioning you and it is affecting your well-being. So let's see if we can make this a bit lighter. We wanted to talk about conditioning and whether or not it's true that we are more heavily conditioned. Talking about why, dropping into the now, knowing that we can't just drop into the now with neutrality. And on the rare occasions that we can, or if we can do it more and more often as we can decondition, that's a great reason to celebrate. That is the goal. That is the end aim. We talked about the importance of finding a method for deconditioning so you can clear up. So we talked about the like ongoing conditioning now, but all of the stuff that happened in childhood is what is going to continue to attract the new and current, the current and future people into your life. So if you are finding that you are attracting people, and you are surrounded by people, you're like, oh, actually, when I look through the lens of like junk food, man, I'm surrounded by a lot of people whose energy feels like junk food to me, then the sheer value in being able to have a safe, gentle, effective way to go back into the past and clean up some of the pain that is still stuck there, some of the conditioning that's still stuck there, means that you will attract different people and different circumstances and different opportunities and different environments in your current moment and moving forward. So I trust that makes sense. If there's anything about that that doesn't make sense, do drop a comment in here. And then the other thing I've got on here is this idea of contemplation with Gene Keys. Now, some of you will be aware of Gene Keys by Richard Rudd. Many, many, many years ago, he was a student of Ra's, and then he co-taught with Ra human design, and then he broke away to create the Gene Keys, which is another separate but sort of sister sibling system that is beautiful. It does different things, but it looks at the gates in human design in a different way, and it is a beautiful body of work. And it is so much about contemplating where we are in terms of a low, a better, or a really high vibration or expression of each of the 64 gates, or the 64 hexagrams as we know them in the I Ching. And Richard talks a lot about contemplation. He talks a lot about like pondering and thinking about over time, where are you in relation to that? Again, that can be another really useful facet of the way that you do the deconditioning. So if you find contemplation to be a really enjoyable way of assimilating information, then absolutely use contemplation in there. And if you're curious, just look up genekeys.com and you'll find Richard and all his beautiful work. But if you know that as a projector, you're wanting to hone in on human design, and I'm looking back at my notes here to make sure that I've sort of covered all the things that felt important. Yes. So the projector aura is being affected by the people that we come into contact with every day. And the more that you can pair a deconditioning tool, like I do with my clients with trauma-informed tapping, which is a body of work I've created over the last decade. And whether it's with tapping or it's with something else, the more you can prioritize your deconditioning as a projector and also continue to assess how healthy the relationships are that you're in, the better that you'll be able to navigate life. And here's where I think I want to finish up. And then I'll do a quick shout out on future questions. So make sure you just stick to the end, because I want to make sure that you know how you can ask questions as well. I think that there is a real tendency in the industry, especially from projectors from human design coaches and teachers, who either are projectors who feel still very stuck and still very much in their victim mode of talking about how hard it is to be a projector, and how many human design coaches and teachers there are who are another human design type who look down on or pity or just don't understand projectors. It is not to say that I haven't met a lot of projectors who have had a fucking hard time of life. I have. I met lots of them over the weekend at the Mind Body Spirit Festival here in Brisbane. There are lots. But there are lots of human beings generally who are suffering, and the way we experience that is different for each person. So if you are somebody who is having a rough time about the idea of being a projector, I really want to give you a different frame to look at and go, yes, we are really heavily conditioned by the people that we spend time with. But that doesn't make you a victim. It doesn't make you powerless. It is part of what makes you so fucking powerful, because you can see, sense, feel, and know the other person so deeply that you can help them in the most profound ways that no other type can do. So you have an incredible potential gift as a projector, and that gift comes with a lot of sensitivity. So your task for the rest of your life, my darling, is to become very skilled at navigating the sensitivity that comes with this gift. If you want my support specifically, and coaching is within your budget, I will put a link in the video description later today when I process this video for trauma-informed tapping. And that would be the way that I would encourage you and teach you, so that you have this skill that you can do on your own forever moving forward. And if you have a question that you know is broad enough that I could answer it in a YouTube video without having seen your chart specifically, then please pop it in the comment below here. It is the only way I can really answer questions from the community outside of a coaching session. So I'd love to see your comment in the question in the comment. And otherwise, I hope this was helpful. Bye for now.